Mhm. Well, thank you. Good afternoon. Great to see you all on the screen, and thank you for joining today. This is KIPTA Transportation Technical Coordination Committee on June 11th at 1 p.m. The first item on the agenda is call to order and roll call. Andy?
Yes, ma'am. Bullitt County? Here. City of Charlestown?
Here.
City of Jeffersontown? City of Jeffersonville? Mount Washington? New Albany? Shepherdsville? Finally, eventually. St. Matthews? Clark County? Keep going. Floyd County, here's one.
I'm here. Nick Creevy.
IDEM? NDOT Public Transportation? Present. NDOT Urban Long Range Planning? NDOT Seymour?
Haley's here.
Hi, Haley. Kentucky DAQ?
We're here.
Hi, Blake. Did I see Claire also? I see Claire's name. Kentucky Transportation Cabinet Central Office?
Pedro Delgado, Division of Planning.
I see Joe. KYTC District 5?
Tom Hall.
Oh,
Tracy Lovell.
Brian Eaton.
oh, Brian's here too. Wow. Cool. Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District. Let's go back to, I saw somebody that was on here before. Did I see?
Larry Summers.
New Albany, yeah. Hi, Larry. Larry from City of New Albany. Moving on, Metro Economic Development. Metro Planning and Design. Metro Public Works. Anybody from Metro? Nobody from Metro, all do. How about this one? Louisville Regional Airport Authority.
Here.
No. Louisville Riverport Authority. Miguel was just on and he said he had to jump off and re-log in, so we'll count him as being here. Oldham County. Oldham County Planning Commission.
I'm here, Anna Barge.
Hi, Anna. Anybody from Port of Indiana? Anybody from the TARC Accessibility Advisory Council? Town of Clarksville.
Mike Huff.
Hi, Mike. TARC.
Here, thank you.
And then moving on to our advisory members. Let's see, Federal Highways Kentucky. I think I saw Tanya.
Hello.
Hi, Tanya. And is anybody else to see? Is there anybody from Trimark on the line? Bruce. I think Bruce is on the line. Hi, Bruce. Who else joined us?
Just Jim.
Jim Silliman, where is he? I see him on here. Jim, thank you for joining us. With this being primarily a virtual meeting, just a reminder that when we have votes, and there's a couple today, please turn your camera on so that we can be in compliance with the open meetings requirements. So appreciate everybody being here. We will have a pretty quick meeting here today, so we should be in and out before too long.
Thank you, Andy. And then next item on the agenda is May TTCC meeting minutes. I do hope you had an opportunity to review them, and action is requested. So do we have a motion on the minutes? Thank you, Keith. Second?
Jim Silverman, second.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions or any discussion on the motion? Hearing done. All in favor say aye or raise your hands.
Aye.
Hi.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Item number 3 is Transportation Policy Committee report, review of the May TTCC meeting, and activities related to that. So, Andy, please,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Unlike today's meeting and last month's, perhaps even this month's TPC meeting, we had an action-packed TPC as we did at TTCC last month. The highlights included our new TIP, our new Transportation Improvement Program was adopted by the TPC at the end of May. It's out for federal review. Ms. Sigden has passed that along to her federal partners, our federal partners, if you will. And she's requested comments to be back to her within the next couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So we should hear news on that before too long. Hopefully even before the TPC meeting later this month. So that's a really good thing. We finalized the some of the Indiana moving parts, dedicated fund moving parts that included that swap of funds with the Columbus area MPO. That is, we got some additional funds for next fiscal year 26, primarily to fund, or as close to fully fund as possible, the Bridge 51 project. And then in exchange for some future funds, it's 27 and 29, fiscal 27 and 28 funds that we shipped out. So we'll have a little bit less in those years, so we can get this important project done next year. Chris updated or brought to that committee, and it was approved, the functional classification updates. We did that regionally where we talked to each county. Update on that is that those are in the hands of the 2 state DOTs at this time. And so we hope to hear some good news from them before too long too. You may remember that the changes that were required for the around the fringe of the urban area boundary, that is when a road becomes rural or urban, the deadline, the federal deadline on that was the end of the calendar year. So it may be a couple more months before we hear about that, but nonetheless, that's in good order too. Aramacelli brought the CMP to the TPC for their approval, and they approved it. Again, we had an action-packed agenda. We had a few other things. We gave some updates to the Safe Streets and Roads for All plan. We got some more information maybe at the end of the meeting today. We can talk a little bit about that, but nonetheless, that's going on, and we're about ready to finalize that. Be happy to answer any questions. I think we covered a lot of the same things in TTCC, but it was a very busy meeting last month at TPC. It felt as busy as I can remember. So
Right.
that concludes that report.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions for Andy? Great, thank you. Now we have public comment period, and Greg will share with us any comments received prior to TPCC meeting and entertain your comments.
Yeah, we did not receive anything prior to the meeting, not seen anything in the Q&A, but if it comes up later in the meeting, I'll bring it up in other business.
Thank you. Item number 5, Shift Boost Working Group. Spencer will discuss with us the next process for Shift 2026, including requesting the formation of a working group, and action is requested.
Yep. So the 2026 KYTC shift process for like the NPOs is entering the boost phase. Right now, all the projects that we sponsored and were sponsored across the state by the highway, the local district offices, and then the NPOs are being scored by KYTC right now. We should get those scores back at the end of July, and once we get those scores back, we'll be able to do what many of you all in the past have participated in before, the boosting phase. So kind of as Andy always puts it, the sponsorship phase is the shallow cut and the boosting phase is the deeper cut. So what we're looking to do is form another shift working group to do the boosting phase. You'll recall back in, was it April, Andy? When we went around and went to each county, and we hosted Jefferson County's here, a couple different meetings, and then we went to Bullitt County and Oldham County and did the sponsorship phase. For the boosting phase, I think we're just gonna do it here. We'll have probably just a little bit smaller of a working group. But that's essentially what we're gonna be doing. Our region gets 18 boost. I think last time it was around the same amount. We had the same amount of sponsorships as last time. So we'll get 18. And, the working group doesn't have to be anybody in particular, but you know, nobody in Indiana will have to do it since it's only a Kentucky thing. We just wanna make sure we kind of get representation from around the region, you know, so like to try to get a person from Bullard, a person from Oldham, someone from Jefferson, but other than that, it's kind of whoever wants to participate in the boosting phase. You know, it'll add some points to some projects that are key, you know, key things you want to get done in the area, so it's pretty much the gist of it. Andy, do you have anything else to add?
No, I would strongly encourage maybe each and every Kentucky jurisdiction to commit to sending a person to this work group. I don't see a reason
Right.
why not, right? That it can only help you and it's unlikely to hurt you other than coming out to Kipton for a meeting or two. That's to at least to the extent that you're gonna be fighting for projects in your county, your city, your area. And I don't wanna make it sound like that's all we talk about is deliberate over that and then fight over it. But get a good ranking, a good sound ranking for the region and helping to ensure that it's a reasonably fair shake for everybody.
Yeah, I think the plan, they're supposed to give us the scores by, well, per their schedule around July 27th, 28th, so maybe shoot to have one meeting that week, and if we need a subsequent meeting, we could do one early the next week, which would be that first week of August. That way we can try to get everything we decided into the mail out to TTCC. Well, the mail out would be that Wednesday, the 6th of August, and then TTCC would be the 13th, so.
Yeah, so keep in mind, that's gonna be our next meeting of this committee will be that mid-August meeting, and so getting if we can thread the needle being late July, when we expect to get the scores from KYTC by and get those things settled so that they can be out to you guys in your meeting packets so that you can have the full week, let them marinate for a week in the packet in advance of the meeting. That would be our goal. If the timing doesn't work out, you know, we'll email it 3 days before this meeting in August or something like that, as soon as we can, so to speak. But we definitely, or I say we definitely, we'd be hard pressed to have a process without the TTCC's recommendation. We want that. Remember, this working group gets the first crack at saying,
Right.
yeah, let's go with these 18 or 20 or whatever it is. TTCC gets the second crack, and then the TPC would get the final say. The other thing that plays into it, by the way, for those veterans of the shift process is, what do they call it? Turbo boosting. Turbo boosting is when the transportation cabinet, they have their own set of boosts
Yeah.
that are independent of ours, and when they boost something, we can also boost it. That gives the project 20 additional points, not just the 10 that the TPC can give it, but the 20. And so some of that, who goes first, who goes last, comes into play too. That is, if we really want a project to score its very highest, we might be more interested in scoring boosting a project that KYTC also strongly supports through their boost actions. Tom, is that fair? A fair way of, saying that the way the sequence works?
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but while I've got you, there's nothing that you haven't heard any late breaking news on the shift schedule that's contradictory to what Spencer or I have said. We're just thinking we'll get scores in late July.
What I would say is that, we're actually in the what's called the data verification phase, where the districts are looking at all of the details of each of these projects, making sure they have a cost estimate, making sure that they can be modeled properly when they run through the shift calculator. And they did give us an extra 2 weeks to do that work. So that might delay the scores coming out maybe a couple of weeks. But I can report that District 5 just this morning finished all our data verification on like 150 or so projects, and we're good to go. So worst case scenario, you might see the scores come out maybe a week or two later than originally anticipated. Other than that, good to go.
Yeah. Remember so the deadline, Commissioner Spencer probably did. September 5th is the deadline that's at least on the current schedule. That's when boosts need to be in to central office, KYTC. And so with our meeting schedules, it has to happen in August, so to speak, for us. And so we'll, as you all know, we'll do the best we can to get it done as, as efficiently as we can. So.
Great, thank you. I mean, we know this is important. This is our last opportunity to prioritize KIPTA projects and ultimately what we do as a working group and at the August meetings. This is priority for KIPTA for the next timeframe.
Sure, sure.
Then just a question, do you plan to send to everyone from on the Kentucky side, from each agency or organization, an invite about this meeting
I
for the working group?
think we can do that if that would be the preference. I mean, there's probably multiple ways to do it. One way is to get volunteers right here, right now. Well, once we get the committee
Right.
established, of course, but, another way of doing it would be, and maybe it's both, you know, hey, send it out to
Right.
Kentucky
Okay.
jurisdictions. I see no good reason why an Indiana jurisdiction would join in the fun on this one. There are some other reasons, and stay tuned to the next agenda item for something akin to that, but in this case,
Okay.
yeah, we'll be limited to Kentucky only.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table to approve forming a working group for boost of the projects as prioritized previously and sent to KYTC. Is that correct?
Fair, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve?
So
Thank you, Keith. Second,
Anna Barge, Oldham County. I'll second that.
thank you, Anna. Any comments, discussions, or questions? Hearing done, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries.
So we'll plan to go ahead and, we'll just see, is that the preference? We'll just email all the Kentucky TTCC reps and say, at that Wednesday, June 11th meeting, we talked about this, and if you'd like to join us, please respond affirmatively, or maybe we'll just invite everybody, but we'll send out an email shortly.
Sounds good. Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Item number 6, thank you, Spencer. Item number 6 on the agenda, call for projects working group, and staff will be presenting latest information for the new call for projects and request information of a working group for the next call projects. Action is requested and Brady will present.
Twenty 2025 call for projects. This call is just a reminder for a couple slides. Once again, this call for projects is only for STBG funds in Kentucky. All state and local public agencies located within the Kentucky portion of the NPA boundary are eligible to apply for these funds. We're anticipating around $25 million to be available of STBG funds. Note that currently those funds are, in terms of availability, are more backloaded in that we have more availability in 28 and 29. So there may need to be some shifting of funds in order to get funding in the years that are requested. We'll talk more about that later. But short story is there's about $25 million available to play with for this call for projects. Timeline as far as where we're at, just in the beginning stages here. Today I'm going to be asking for an action to form a TTCC working group for this call for projects to evaluate the applications that we receive. The call for projects application period opens on July 1st and ends August 1st. So in a month and a half from now, that's when that application period will be. After which there'll be the review process of the applications as well as the working group meetings. Okay, the main couple things I wanted to walk through today was just a reminder of the application process, a few things to know, as well as the formation of the actual working group. So if you're getting to July 1st and the application period is open and you want to submit an application, you can go to KIPTA.org. This is just KIPTA's main page. And under the transportation dropdown, you can go down to the transportation planning portal. You click on that link, it takes you to A different site here, KIPTA's Transportation Planning Portal, you click on Forms. And that will get you to the site to where you will be applying via the call for projects. It's also the same page that you typically apply for. If you need any other project changes to the tip or to a project in the tip or the MTP, it's the same site, the same link. So if you need to submit a full project application, you'll click on this link. Expedited, you'll click on this link. There's tutorial videos that walk through the applications. If you have questions, Chris and I are also available anytime to call or email if you have questions about the application. Just a couple things to consider, mainly which application might you need to submit for the call to projects. You need to submit a full or you need to submit an expedited. Well, it depends on what you're asking. If you're submitting a new project to a call for projects or a project that is new to the MPO dedicated program, doesn't have any MPO dedicated funds or doesn't have or isn't currently in the tip, or isn't currently in the MTP at all, it's a new project, then you'll need to submit a full project application where there's more questions that KIPTA needs in order to score the project. We need more details about this new project. If you have a existing project that is undergoing some kind of scope change or the project termini are adjusting, or there's a substantive change to the project that already exists, you also need a full project application because we need to rescore the project if it's changing substantially than what it previously was. So those are the two situations where you fill out a full project application. If you have an existing project where you're not substantially changing the design scope or project termini, you just need funding adjustments for the project or small adjustments, then you can fill out the expedited project application. It's a faster, easier application, save you some time. A couple other notes about these full and expedited project applications. The full project application requires an accurate mapping of your proposed project. So there'll be a mapping question where it asks you to map exactly where your project is. And if you're unable to map it correctly in the question, or if it's more complicated that it has multiple sections of a project, there's a different drop box where you can add a PDF or a GIS file to submit the location of the project. But there's a question where if it's a full project application, we actually need an accurate mapping of the project to help in the scoring process. If you're doing an expedited project application, there is a mapping question, but it's only there because the software requires it to be there. So that one's not important. Mapping question, not important for an expedited, very important for a full project application. And the last note to remember, and all of these notes are in your memo. So if you forget all of this, check the memo for this agenda item. When you are applying for the funding for your project application, apply for the funding as your primary preference would be, as in, I would like SDBG funds. If I can get them in fiscal year 26, that will be my first choice. I would like it in fiscal year 26, then apply for it as such, with the understanding that depending on funding availability and the priorities of the determined by the working group, you may not be able to receive funds until 27 or 28 or a later year. But submit your application to be your first choice of when you would like the funds if possible. And we will go from that point. Okay. One last thing to show you all. That's the transportation planning portal. On KIPTA's website, if you once again go down to the drop down of transportation on the main page and go to the transportation improvement program page, the TIP page on our website, there's a couple other sources that might be of help to you while you're filling out applications or just generally when you're managing your applications. We have a TIP project listings page that provides a summary of what we have in the TIP up to the date that's listed on the website. So currently it includes all changes processed as of May 27th. And then there's another link down here at the bottom, tracking sheets for MPO dedicated funding programs. This is an Excel spreadsheet that shows what we have programmed for MPO dedicated funds. And so both of these links that I just pointed out would be good resources as a starting point if you need to remember how much funding do I have in which year and which phase. And if you have questions about any of it, or if it doesn't match what your expectations are, then please reach out to me or Chris so we can get on the same page and clarify that. Okay. All right. Let me share my screen again one more time and finish my presentation. Okay. And then finally, for the TTCC working group, this is a list of last year's call for projects TTCC working group. We have the 5 static members that are always a part of a working group, according to KIPTA's project management guidebook, KIPTA, KYTC, NDOT, Metro, and Park. And then the other 4 members of the working group are 2 rotating members from Indiana and 2 rotating voting TTCC members from Kentucky. This past year, it was Bullitt County, City of St. Matthews, representing on the Kentucky side, and then the City of New Albany and Clark County on the Indiana side. What we're proposing for this call for projects, because it's kind of a special situation call for projects, we usually only do them every 2 years, and this is kind of a special situation here, is we have the members of this working group would have the first rights of refusal to also be the members of the working group in 2026 when we do our next large call for projects that includes all of the funding sources we have available in Kentucky and in Indiana. So pending the approval of this working group, I would reach out to the next rotational members in line for Indiana and in Kentucky respectively to ask if they would like to be a part of the working group. Static members, of course, are already going to be a part of it. And those that accept for the rotational members will be a part of the working group. And they will also be a part of the working group, or have at least the first rights of refusal to be a part of the working group the next year. The reason we wanted to do this is primarily because we have 2 Indiana voting members that we would like to be a part of the group, because in KIPTA's experience, having those independent views on these funding decisions is important and valuable. To have someone who is within the region and is in the know on how these projects are developed and what the needs are of the region, but don't necessarily have skin in the game in terms of the funding, that their opinions are valuable. So we'd like to have our Indiana representatives, but we don't want to have someone be a rotational member on a working group where they don't have any funding available to fight for themselves and then skip out next year when there is Indiana funding available. It's kind of the main reason we're thinking of doing it this way. So that would be the request for action today, is a request to form the TTCC working group, this 2025 call for projects, with an understanding that the members chosen for this working group will also have the first right of refusal for next call for projects. So I guess more simply, for the actual action is just a recommendation for the call for projects, a working group.
Thank you. Any questions for Brady before we have a motion at the table? Okay, but thank you. That was detailed explanation. Very good to know that we have funding for this call for project. So this is opportunity to do more in the region. So we have a motion at the table as Brady presented to form a working group for call for projects for fiscal year 26-27. Do we have a motion?
So
Thank you, Keith. Second. Thank you, Jim. Any comments or questions online or here in the room? Hearing done. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Motion carries. The group will be formed. The last item on the agenda today is Amendment 1 to Fiscal Year 2025-28 Transportation Improvement Program. That also is Amendment 10 to Connecting Kentuckiana and MTP Schedule. Schedule Amendment 1 for Fiscal Year 25-28 TIP Amendment 10, and also CK 2050 MTP will be discussed, which Chris will clarify for us all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. This will be relatively short. Most of you folks have seen me present on this before, and those who are avid application submitters should be on my list now. I sent an email last week. If you think that you're missing these emails and want to get on that email list, please let me know, because I recently updated it and I think I got everyone who might want to know about amendment deadlines. So HIPT is in the early stages of planning for the next amendment, and it's important to note that this amendment that we're planning for is pending the federal approval of the fiscal year 25 to 28 TIP. That should be coming soon, within the next couple weeks, hopefully. So this amendment will be the first amendment to that document. It has two names, but it is just one amendment. So the reason why we call it Amendment 1/Amendment 10 is because it will be the first amendment to the TIP. However, we're not having an MTP update right now, so it's actually the 10th amendment to the MTP. Let's see. So separate from what Brady just described with the MPO dedicated call for projects, our project applications are due on June 20th at the end of next week. The application process is pretty much the same. So Brady queued me up pretty well. You're going to go to all of those same places to give me any updates that you need for projects that are just moving funding around, or most of you who have project updates, I think, have probably already met with me or talked to me or even submitted the projects already. But if there's any stragglers, that deadline's the end of next week. No need to wait for the 20th. Just go ahead and submit them as you do them, and I'll review them as soon as I can. We have it set that we're going to review them through the end of June and then start our air quality activities basically for the month of July. At one point, mid-July, we'll have the IAC meeting. We'll have our public comment period, July 29th through August 12th, and have a virtual meeting somewhere in there. And then we're gonna ask for TTCC recommendation and TPC approval in August. The federal review will follow, and usually that's 30 days or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you. I knew you will make it clear.
I hope I did. It's very
Yes,
tricky in the
of course.
transitional time.
Yeah, thank you. Very lengthy title to the
Yes.
amendment. Thank you. Any questions for Chris? All clear? Thanks much. The next item on the agenda is other business.
Yeah, I've got a couple things, if I might, real quick.
Absolutely.
First, just a reminder that we mentioned it earlier, there will be no TTCC meeting next month. So, as you can see, we got several things in the works, but, no, we're going to, and that's true about all KIPTA committees that you guys are likely to be on. I don't want to say exclusively, there'll be no committee meetings if it's for some other division at KIPTA, but there'll be no TTCC meeting, no TPC meeting, and also no KIPTA Board of Directors meeting in July. All three are going to be, take a summer vacation. So we'll see everybody here again in August. Secondly, I want to recognize Brian Davis from Louisville Metro. Thank you for joining us, Brian. Mark Knoll from Louisville Metro. Thank you for joining us, Mark. Brian Dixon from Clark County. And I think that covers everybody. Thank you guys for joining us. And third, last but not least, just want to give an update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. We are rapidly approaching the end of that cycle. As you all know, we've pursued through the action planning activities 17 plans, 1 regional and 16 local. And so those are all about wrapped up. In May, Mick submitted the Trimble County plan because that was kind of the first one draft that was ready for the pre-eligibility review to the Federal Highways Administration. In other words, does it pass their muster? Does it check all the boxes on their checklist to make it eligible for implementation grant funding? We were certain that it did. Turns out it did not. I'll summarize. Don't worry, your plan will. The issue that we discovered, or that they told us, was at first they said we were missing parts. I was like, there's no way we're missing parts. We made our plans to match their template. They said, okay, you're right. One of those was an error. We do have that, so thank you. The other one was we don't have like the time constraints or the timing of when the projects will be implemented. That's a tough one, right? How do we know when the projects are going to be implemented? We can speculate, and we can say it's reasonable to do these things faster than this other thing that's going to take years of project development. Regardless, those updates to each and every one of y'all's plans are being updated, as we speak, and so everybody will be in good shape, and there's no reason to believe everybody won't be eligible for the implementation. That deadline is June 26th. I think everybody knows that by now. I hope you do. Next week on the 17th, you should have received an invitation in the past week or so. June 17th at 10 a.m. It'll be a hybrid meeting that is in this room and on Zoom of the steering committee. The steering committee is all the partners around the region can join in on the fun, and we'll go over some of these things I just mentioned and some of the what's next, how do you take your plan and run with it over the next few years. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got a meeting tomorrow with Bullitt County about maybe pursuing a grant application in Bullitt County. So
Andy, are we doing that here or at Complex? Do you remember?
We have I set us up to join, our consultant to join yesterday, so I think if it's okay with you, can we just do it on Zoom?
However you want to do it.
Let's, I think I sent out a Zoom application or a Zoom invitation. So
I'm sure you did.
We'll just do it on Zoom if that's okay with you.
Perfect.
And then we know of a couple grants that are being pursued, one of which KIPTA is working on for Trimble County. And so if your what I want to say about that is if your community doesn't pursue one this go around, I think I hope everybody will let's keep track of Trimble County's application or any other ones from our region, and then we'll all learn from it for next year and get that wisdom that you might have gotten by trying this year, and so we'll all have better applications next year should that be the case for your agency, win or lose on Trimble County this year. So I think Jeffersonville is looking to put one in too, by the way. So that's what I know about SS4A. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but otherwise, we'll talk real in depth tomorrow for Bullitt County and next week for everybody else. Remember, June 17th, 10 a.m. Get to Burke Room and/or online Zoom.
Great, thank you. Good updates. And if nothing else for today, we have motion to adjourn.
So
Andy, can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
Can you confirm the time of that meeting? Because the invitation I got says 10:30.
Stand by. That is correct. 10:30. I apologize. 10:30.
Thank you.
10:30, June 17th. Jim's on the ball as always. The invitation has let me not say another thing incorrect. The invitation has should have all the details you need. So we'll see you guys on the 17th in person or online.
Thank you for clarification.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, okay. Well, now again, do we have a motion to adjourn?
If I could just jump in real quick.
This is great. Let's keep discussion going. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that in conjunction with Louisville Metro Air Pollution Control District, that the Division for Air Quality for Kentucky is currently requesting to opt out of the sale of reformulated gas in the area and switch over to conventional gas. So that's out for public comment right now on our website. So if you're interested in having public comment on that, you will be emailing me. So that's just claire.euler@ky.gov. So again, we're just public commenting and gathering those on that switchover. So if you have anything to say about that, I'd be happy to hear from you.
Thanks, Claire.
That's interesting. Well, any other comments or discussion? Thank you all, and then the motion is already in the moving. Second on that motion to adjourn? I second. Everyone in favor? I guess yes.
Aye.
Thank you so much, and everybody have a great afternoon.